Welcome to Medill Sports Talk, where we break down the news this week for the sports you love. Good morning and welcome to our downtown Chicago newsroom. I'm Doug Greenberg, kicking off MST with our America's favorite sport. Joining me to do so are Casey Bannon and Connor Yahn. This week we bring you the triumphant return of the NFL. Almost. As of 6 p.m. Central tonight, the preseason is underway, but several big-name players are still without a team. Chief among them, wide receiver Dez Bryant. Bryant is reportedly looking for a one-year prove-it deal, but has a reputation for bringing distractions to the locker room. Casey, where do you think Dez should land?
Well, should is different than will. I think he will end up in Cleveland or Miami or somewhere. But if you're actually looking for a prove-it deal, then why not go to a place where you can prove it? Getting the ball, getting targets, things he did not get in Dallas, you can get all those things in a place, say, New England, where they actually invented the one-year prove-it deal. Brandon Cooks, Randy Moss was a one-year prove-it deal that ended up becoming a longer-term deal. Same with Aqib Talib and Darrelle Revis as well. The Pats have a little over $7 million in cap space right now, so Dez is going to come down to probably about $4 million, but it's an investment into his future. If you go somewhere without a quarterback who doesn't get you the football, you start from square one. Nobody wants to deal with his attitude. The Patriots got rid of Malcolm Mitchell. Edelman's out for the first 4 games. They actually need a true X-possession guy. I'd say, why not? Why not go there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably where he wants to go. He wants to win, be in the spotlight and all that. But I just don't see any of that happening, barring a catastrophic injury. You look at the Browns, and I think that's probably the most likely landing spot. They traded away Corey Coleman. Josh Gordon still hasn't shown up. You've got Jarvis Landry recruiting him. And also Antonio Callaway is probably going to get suspended in some capacity for his marijuana charges. So you look at all that, I think that's probably the best landing spot for him, where he could actually put up some numbers, maybe build back his value. And I just don't see him going to a big team other than, if there's a season-ending injury.
Yeah, well, you never know. We'll just have to see how it unfolds. So while Dez may still be without a team, several players on rosters are reportedly unhappy in their current situations and are holding out, including Raiders star defensive end Khalil Mack. Connor, if Mack can't get a deal done, do you believe those rumors that he might be traded in the next couple days?
As much as I'd like him to be traded to the Packers, I don't think it's going to happen. He's just too good of a talent. He's young. He's got so much in front of him, and there's still a month before the season starts, so I don't think that we're going to see him move. I think they'll get it worked out. But it is concerning to me that with the new coaching staff coming in, with Gruden coming in, it's disturbing that they've had such a lack of communication. And I think that's where the biggest thing is for me.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. Him on the Packers would be really exciting just from a football perspective. But the Mack saga will eventually come to a close. But until then, Casey, who's your top holdout whose team needs to get a deal done ASAP?
I think the Falcons really need Julio Jones back, just for the simple fact that I don't think Matt Ryan's actually very good without him. You'd have to go back to 2013 when Julio Jones was not on the field. That's when the Falcons went 4-12. Remember, they were 13-3 with him the year before. There's been 2 consistencies in Matt Ryan's career when he is successful. Number 1 is Julio Jones. Number 2 is Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, the guy that took RG3 to Rookie of the Year. Then he took Matt Ryan to MVP in 2016, and now he's undefeated with the handsomest quarterback in football, in Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay? You paid Matt Ryan $150 million. You let Kyle Shanahan walk, and now you're not going to pay Julio Jones. That's like buying a Lamborghini and forgetting to put gas into it. It makes no sense whatsoever. Pay him, get him back.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the return of the NFL means the return of fantasy football. Guys, I assume you have the first picks in your respective drafts. So who are you taking with the top selection?
Well, before I say this, please do your Googles about me and my fantasy football history. This is how I put food on the table. I'm taking DeAndre Hopkins for 3 reasons: ability, availability, reliability. In 5 years, he's missed 1 game, Week 17 of last year, because they were already out of the playoffs. Nobody has more targets than DeAndre Hopkins last year, 174 in those 15 games. Mind you, this is playing with bums at quarterback for his entire career. He gets Deshaun Watson back. Not only is he the number 1 option on his team, he's the only option. Name their number 2 receiver. That's what I thought. Name their number 3 receiver. Name their tight end. Name their running back since Arian Foster. You can't. Also, he's dating Iggy Azalea as far as the Instagram comments are concerned. There's no way he fails. And if you're watching this and you're in my fantasy league, I was totally kidding about everything. Don't take it.
For the record, Will Fuller is the second
Well, you do
receiver.
this for a living.
Yeah,
I wasn't talking to you.
Whatever. Connor, what do you think?
So I'm going maybe the more traditional route, Le'Veon Bell. He's Probably going to get off to a slow start, but I'm willing to accept that. He's always reliable at the end, just like you said with DeAndre Hopkins. But he just gives you so much production out of the backfield. In PPR leagues, he can get you 7, 8 receptions a game. You can bank on multiple touchdowns towards the fantasy playoffs. And so, just like you said, he's a reliable target.
Even if he's not on the field?
I mean, he's going to get it done. He's going to play. Once those game checks start going, he's gonna end up on the field. Yeah.
Well, you gotta hope so. For yours truly, I'm sticking with the conventional pick. Todd Gurley had that amazing breakout year last year. He's gonna have that offense is gonna open up lanes for him all over the place. He's gonna be an absolute stud this year, assuming he doesn't get injured. But we'll argue about that off air. Last week's Hall of Fame game marked the beginning of the preseason for the local Chicago Bears. We'll get to see the Bears and 23 other teams in action tonight to begin the first full week of the preseason. Connor, which games are you most intrigued by tonight?
So the Giants and Browns is one that you look at, but I'd rather watch that on Hard Knocks. Tonight, it's Bills-Panthers for 2 reasons. You've got Kelvin Benjamin and Cam Newton, although they probably won't play much, but they'll be in the same area. We'll see if anything happens there. Probably not, but maybe. And then you've got A.J. McCarron and Josh Allen, which I think is a more compelling quarterback battle than the one in Cleveland. I think Tyrod Taylor's going to win that job. So I think it'll be interesting to see, honestly, for me, what A.J. McCarron does and if he can hold that job.
Yeah. What do you think, Casey?
None, actually, because I think the preseason is stupid and a waste of bodies. But if I have to pick, it's going to be Rams-Ravens, Crabtree, Talib. You snatch my chain once, shame on me. Snatch it twice, and you have some invoices coming your way. So I guess I'll watch the first couple series just to see if anything happens. They're not going to meet in the regular season, so they might as well get it out right now.
Yeah. Well, I also believe the Pats and the Packers are in action tonight as well. We'll get to see those guys. We're all fans here.
No injuries, please.
No injuries.
Keep the stars on the field.
Can't have an Edelman situation again.
Keep the stars on the field.
Well, anyway, that's all the time we have to talk pro football this week. But stick around because Drake Hills, Eric Frazier, and Chris Kwiecinski will be back to talk the college game when we return. Don't go anywhere. This is Medill Sports Talk.
And you're clear. At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Cheer you all to go.
Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. Western University, the possibilities are endless.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout.
Tip me over and pour me out. Oh. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Cheers.
Take time to be a dad today.
A redhead?
Staring contest.
You still got it.
I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year, 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 68. I'm Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Welcome back to Medill Sports Talk. I'm Drake Hills, and we want to thank our NFL experts for setting the tone for this episode. Now we're going to discuss what's going on in the college ranks. The college football season is upon us, and we didn't even make it to week 1 without some controversy. Along with Eric, I'm joined Chris Kwiecinski, and who steps out from the behind the camera into an analyst role. We start on a serious note. Ohio State head coach Urban Meyer has been put on administrative leave after allegedly not reporting information regarding a 2015 domestic violence case involving his former assistant coach, Zach Smith. Chris, we'll start with you. This is a can of worms and surfaced last week. What's happened since then?
So what's happened since the whole week is, it's obviously a lot to unpack, but right now we have to realize that Breck McMurphy has some massive journal integrity. As a former ESPN reporter reported on the biggest developments surrounding the allegations on his own Facebook page. We know that police arrested now former Ohio State wide receiver coach Zach Smith in 2009 in Gainesville on suspicion of domestic violence, but charges were dropped. Smith's wife also went to police in 2015 with more allegations of domestic violence, but those charges were never filed there. In 2017, Smith was given a criminal trespass warning after reportedly making threats against his wife. In 2018, McMurphy reported he was cited, Smith that is, for misdemeanor criminal trespass after a dispute with his wife. Now, come the 2018 Big Ten Media Days, McMurphy was reporting throughout the entire week about Smith, about his allegations, and about what Urban Meyer knew about the allegations of 2015. Smith was fired the morning of July 23rd, and Meyer denied knowing about the 2015 incident on the 24th. On August 1st, McMurphy reported the bombshell that Shelley Meyer, Urban's wife and closest confidant, texted with Smith's wife about the allegations against Smith. Urban was placed on administrative leave that same day. Now, what we're waiting for is Ohio State's investigation to wrap up 10 days from now. Then we will know what Meyer did and did not know, and we'll be able to say whether or not Meyer should be fired. Until then, we wait, Drake.
Some very big information going on right there. What does this mean for the Buckeyes, Eric, if Urban Meyer does leave Ohio State?
I mean, it means a lot. It means big changes for Ohio State, and the fact that basically last year they just won the Big Ten championship. They're coming off a high year. They were going in momentum, and then all of a sudden this breaks and this changes everything. They have a lot of people in the cover like Greg Schiano and Ryan Day, which are currently taking over operations. But if they can't get Urban Meyer back, it's going to be big changes. It's not going to be a drastic fall off, but they're not going to really be where they were last season.
Yeah, with Greg Schiano, you talked about him. He's got some NFL experience. So there should be a little bit of a backup plan for Ohio State. But last week, as Chris said, Ohio State announced an internal investigation into whether proper protocol as followed by Meyer. The probe is expected to be wrapped up within the next 9 days or so. Meanwhile, we move from the Midwest to the South, where we have a quarterback battle on our hands in the SEC in Tuscaloosa. Alabama quarterback Jalen Hurts has been very public about how he feels, and it's been portrayed, voicing his displeasure, I would say. Hurts had this to say, quote, "There's been a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation about things that have gone on this summer. Everybody has something to say. Everybody has something to say, and everybody has an opinion. The funniest thing about it is I've never said a thing. I kept my mouth closed, didn't say anything to anyone. Regardless, people are believing things that are being said. It's hard to believe something when the number one source didn't say anything." He clearly doesn't feel like he's been included enough in this discussion. Remember that Tua Tagovailoa replaced Hurts in the national championship game and led the Tide to another season title under Nick Saban. So not only did Hurts get benched and watch a true freshman win the title he worked so hard for all season, now he said he feels the offseason went by with a significant lack of action from the coaches in controlling the narrative. So now I'm going to turn to you, Eric. What's Jalen's next move? Is he going to switch positions or maybe possibly transfer out of the school? What's going on with Jalen Hurts?
Well, Jalen Hurts, his first move is to actually win the position. I mean, he basically came in last year, he was lighting it up on the field, on his feet, and in the air, and then he got figured out by Georgia. And so they pretty much shut him down that first half. So Tua comes in the second half and wins the national championship game. So basically now he's in the offseason trying to win the position. There's a lot of drama going on. So we know that I think that Jalen will start, but I know Tua's going to play. So the thing is right now he has to win that position. If not, he's either going to look at changing positions or looking at another school. Maybe in the SEC West, maybe in the other conference.
Well, you think that, I mean, it's easier said than done though, right? I mean, we're talking about Tua who won the national championship for Alabama. So, I mean, when you really talk about it, Eric, is that something that can actually be possible for Jalen Hurts to win over the QB1 slot?
I mean, it's his position to lose. I mean, we only saw one half a play.
But it was in the biggest game though, wasn't it?
I mean, it is the national championship game. I'm not going to underestimate
against the
value.
best defense as well.
I don't know, the debates on that one. UCF had some debate on that, so
we'll get to that later.
I'm going off of the fact that he's only played one half of significant football. I want to see a whole game by Tua. I want to see him during the season before I can weigh in on if he's actually the main man in Alabama. But I think that, like I said, Jalen's going to start. Tua's going to play. If Jalen slips, Tua's going to come up, and Jalen might be looking at a new position or a new school.
Well, of course, Tua does have the hype. He has that position for him. But Chris, is it outlandish to say that Tua is in a Heisman hopeful position?
I wouldn't say it's outlandish because obviously he won the national championship game. He came in and he beat Georgia, beat a really good defense. And right now, Bovada currently has him at the top of the odds to win the Heisman Trophy. Like Eric said, he's got to play a full game. We need to see a full game from him since then. We'll see what happens when the quarterback position is finally resolved in Alabama, but until then, I don't think it's outlandish to say he has a shot.
Well, that's enough for our national powerhouses. We're going to take it and we're going to focus on our attention to our neck of the woods here in Chicago. Let's turn things to Northwestern and the Fighting Illini of Illinois. Northwestern, coming off of yet another 10-win season, its third in the Fitzgerald era. Of course, losing Clayton Thorson to a knee injury in the Music City Bowl is a major setback. Even though Thorson questionable for the first game of the season, the Wildcats return a bulk of their starters, including all-conference selections Joe Gaziano and Patty Fisher. Chris, what can we expect from the Wildcats in 2018?
I think we can expect a little more contention than what we've seen from them in the past. Obviously, the goal is to win a Big Ten conference title, and we've seen them get close and close, but they just couldn't beat powerhouses like Penn State, Wisconsin last year. This year they got a tough schedule with Michigan, Notre Dame, Michigan State, but they've snuck in and beat Notre Dame in the past. They've played Michigan very well in the past. They beat Michigan State last year in that double overtime thriller. I think with guys like Patty Fisher, a young Fitzgerald, literally the same mold, Thorson, who's got to fix some consistency issues, but once he does, he'll be a first-round NFL draft pick. And guys like Nate Hall, veteran players that can come in and really solidify this Northwestern team as a contender in the Big Ten.
Seems got a lot of potential for the Northwestern Wildcats. But what about the Fighting Illini, Eric? What are their chances for the season?
We go from the top of Northwestern down to the bottom of Illinois. Last year, 2-10 on the year. Didn't really do much. Got blown out by teams by a margin of 31-15. I don't really see much improvement. The wide receiver core is struggling. The two quarterbacks have transferred away. They got a graduate transfer in from Virginia Tech and A.J. Bush. He brings some ACC experience, but I saw the numbers on him. They're not really that great. The offensive line needs a lot of work. I mean, Lovie Smith had some hopeful messages that he gave out in the Big Ten media days, but I say 3-9 at the most. I mean, it's just Illinois is still on a rebuilding year.
You don't think Lovie Smith can turn it around for Illinois?
They need more than just thoughts and prayers.
Well, I mean, he said he expected results this year, so we'll see what he can do.
Yeah, we will see, absolutely. But that's enough for what's going on in the local area. Finally, everyone's favorite debate, the college football playoff. It's never too early to argue who will be in December. Aside from the Bamas and the Ohio State Buckeyes, who else do you guys think? Let's turn it into a debate. Who else do you guys think are the potential contenders for this year's 4 spots?
I mean, we got to go with the big 4. We got Alabama, we got Clemson, we got Ohio State, we got Georgia. Ohio State's kind of up in the air right now because of the whole Urban Meyer situation. We'll let that play out. But, I mean, you got those 4 teams, then you got Oklahoma, Washington also right behind them at 5th and 6th in the current preseason poll. So I think those are the teams that are looking for spots coming up. So that's what I'm going with.
You know, I think we could take a little bit of this dark horse approach and look at a team that could maybe sneak in. Like you saw, Penn State was a team that won the Fiesta Bowl last year. Trace McSorley expected to be a real big player in the Big Ten this year, but also maybe a contender in the Heisman conversation.
He's got the hype, doesn't he?
He has the hype. He has the skills as well, a dual threat quarterback with a big arm. I think even though they lost Saquon Barkley in the NFL draft, I do think that McSorley's talented enough to lead them back into playoff contention.
So talking about sleepers, who is a sleeper for you, Eric? I mean, you named some of the big kahunas, if you will. Kahunas. But what about someone who may not be in one of the Power 5 conferences, maybe a UCF? Who's that going to be like this year?
I don't know who's going to be the next UCF because Nebraska took UCF's coach. So, I mean, there's a lot going on with the playoffs. But, I mean, you got Miami coming up.
So who's your team? Give me your team.
I'm going to give you the U. I'm going to say the U breaks out this year and they're going to come up.
Well, Miami Hurricanes, watch out. Earlier this week, though, at the Big Ten Media Day, Jim Harbaugh and Scott Frost, the Michigan man, and the newly appointed Nebraska head coach both voiced their support for expanding the playoff from 4 teams. Since the 4-team playoff was announced, expansion is a topic that has been widely discussed by coaches and media. Now it's your turn, Chris. Harbaugh talked about maybe putting 6 teams, was it?
Yeah, Scott Frost at the Big Ten Media Day. Scott Frost advocated for 6 teams. Harbaugh advocated for 8, although that's a cop-out for Harbaugh because we know we can't finish higher than 3rd in the Big Ten. So when we think about it, 6 is the way to go here. Frost is onto something because if you talk about putting in 8, you have to take into account all the winners of the Power 5 conferences. But in that conversation, what happens with Notre Dame? What happens with their independent status? It's a lot to figure out. It's really convoluted. It's worked well so far, as we've seen with Alabama being a 4 seed and Ohio State being a 4 seed that has come in and won the national championship game. But so far, expanded to 6, make more people happy, and you get more football. So I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah, but don't you think that with 6 teams, you would have maybe a team who may necessarily not deserve it, perhaps, get into the college football playoff and be at the talent level that the top 4 are at?
Well, if they're ranked in the top 5, they're ranked in the top 5 for a reason. I mean, there's no problem with having the best teams in the land, especially the top 5 ranked by the AP or by the BCS or whoever's the ranking power now.
We've seen these, certain seasons with 2018 or 2017, being one of them, where there was that top 5 teams. But if you take a look at outside of that top 5, I mean, who else is deserving to be in the college football playoff and play at that highest level? I mean, you talk about the Oklahoma, the Georgia, the Alabama. Those teams deserve to get in that playoff. But once you got into that 5th, 6th seed, don't you think that some of the teams maybe deserve to be at another bowl game?
Well, of course. I mean, if you look at, I know the example you're thinking of is Scott Frost UCF last year, but the thing about them is they were 12-0, and the committee really messed up because they didn't take that into account. Being undefeated should really be a factor where the committee has to look at that and take into account, and they will. If teams do that, play that well, then they'll get more recognition.
Well, that'll do it for this week's college football segment. And our time talking about the college football in the game. Catch us next time. But Point Taken is next, and there's everything from the PGA Championship to the CrossFit Games. This is Medill Sports Talk.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout.
Tip me over and pour me out. Oh. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Cheers. Take time to be a dad today.
Oh, look, a redhead. Staring contest. You still got it.
I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year, 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 68. I'm Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Why hang around waiting for opportunity to knock when instead you can track opportunity down and knock on its door? You might ask, what's the best way to identify where opportunity lives? Here's a hint. Its door is colored purple. Northwestern University. Opportunity awaits your knock.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
flying, we will win. We will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Why spend your entire life looking for some on-ramp to the road to opportunity when there's already a well-traveled path? So you may be wondering, what does that path look like? Is it paved with gold? Well, here's a hint. It's actually paved with purple. Northwestern University. Your road starts here.
Why hang around waiting for opportunity to knock when instead you can track opportunity down and knock on its door? You might ask, what's the best way to identify where opportunity lives? Here's a hint. Its door is colored purple. Northwestern University. Opportunity awaits your knock.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, spread for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. Western University, the possibilities are endless.
Can we all do Darren Zaslow cliches?
You know, it's going really well. I really like what I'm doing.
Whoa, all right, guys, you almost slipped into it there.
We're sitting here inside the show right now.
I think I could get some of those.
Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Point Taken. I'm your host, Nick Mantas. Today, as you can hear, I'm joined by some journalists with some feisty opinions on today's hottest topics. Hailing from Midland, Michigan, Jake Riepma, what are you bringing to today's show?
Well, Nick, unlike you, I forgot my Medill pin, so I don't have anything physical, but what I can promise are some subpar sports takes, but a positive can-do attitude.
I'll take it. I love it. I love the energy. That's what it's all about today. Miami, Florida's very own and two-time reigning champion, Lexie Culmer, is in the building. Lexie, what's going on, champ?
Well, I'm very tired today, so I'm hoping that Jake's aura and energy kind of like rubs off on me as the show goes on, but I'm ready to give it my all to go after that three-peat. Pat Riley, I'll send you a bill in the mail later.
I love that. I'll always repping Miami. So last but definitely not least, the local kid from the beautiful township of New Trier, Illinois, Jordan Klein. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Nick Mantas, thank you for having me. You do a great job. I gotta say, I'm a little bit nervous because going up against a two-time champ like Lexie is like fighting Thanos. And I'm afraid that at the end of the show, she's just gonna snap her fingers and all of us will disappear. But I'm feeling good. We'll see what happens.
Hopefully it's just half of us and not all of us. Sparing the rest of the pleasantries, let's get into the first topic. The NFL season is right around the river bend, and that means that NFL fantasy football is here too. Top picks are on everyone's mind when it comes to draft day. So Lexie, seeing as you are the champion, I will start with you. Who is your first pick in the draft, and what is your strategy around that draft?
Well, first of all, Nick, I really like how you set up that question just around the riverbend. Was that like a Pocahontas reference?
It was.
I love that. But so I'm going to take the question a little out of the box per se, and I'm going to go with some like sleeper rookie picks you can make. So once you get to like your sleeper list, the first person on your sleeper list, I think, should be Mike Gesicki. Now, he is a tight end with the Miami Dolphins, very on brand for me. But besides that, the Miami Dolphins have been bad at tight end for like their entire existence. So he's for sure gonna get some playing time. And also, he used to play basketball. And what do we know about tight ends who used to play basketball? They excel in the NFL. Look at Jimmy Graham, Tony Gonzalez, Julius Thomas, Antonio Gates. So I think he definitely needs to be on your sleeper list for fantasy football this season.
Guys, I'll turn it over to either one of you. Who is your number one pick and why?
I'll
Remember,
go first.
Why?
Nick, I'll take this one. Okay. Lexie, that's a great answer, but you didn't answer the question. You can't give us a sleeper list when you're giving us your number one pick. So I'm going to actually answer the question. First, with my strategy. Fantasy football is about winning every week, and in order to do that, you've got to put your best team on the field every week. That means you got to play it safe. You can't go for the home run ball and hope that one guy who could be promising but has a history of injury gets injured. Now you're screwed. So my strategy is to play it safe. And by play it safe, I mean pick the most reliable position in the game first and move on from there. It's running backs. If I'm drafting this year, running backs are going to be some of my top picks early on, followed by wide receivers, and only then do I think about quarterbacks and tight ends. And the reason is simple. If you draft a top 20 running back in your draft, there's a 59% chance that that running back is going to be top 20 by the end of the year. Those are the best odds of any position in fantasy football. For a quarterback, if you draft a top 10 quarterback, it's only a 50-50 shot that he's going to be top 10 by the end of the year. I don't love those odds. So my first overall pick, that being said, is going to be Saquon Barkley for a couple of reasons. One, he's incredible running out of the backfield. We've seen that throughout his highlights at Penn State, but also he can catch. He is one of the true dual threats that are entering the league this year in an offense entirely built around him. I mean, look, if a running back gets over 200 rushing attempts and 75 passing attempts over the course of the year, top 5 almost guaranteed. Barkley's going to get that. He's my pick.
All right, going with the young gun at running back. What about you, Jake?
Listen, you guys both made great points, so don't take this personally when I completely disagree with you on every single level. Jordan, your point about running backs being the most reliable, this is the most violent league. I mean, yes, of course, we're trying to make player safety, that's at the forefront and whatnot, but injuries happen every single year with running backs. Lexie, great thought with the tight end there, but we're talking about the first round here. Hello, everybody. It's 2018. Most leagues are going to be point per reception leagues. Talk about Antonio Brown. He's been the best fantasy wide receiver in each of the last single seasons since 2014. He's finished either first or second in fantasy receiving. It's simple. Point per reception leagues with the wide receiver position are going to give you that extra edge so that you can win on a consistent basis. Running backs get injured. Lexie, tight ends are great in like the 10th round.
I went with first sleeper pick. I thought we were doing
strategy
a little out of the box kind of situation.
We are. I'll give you that. We are going with sleeper picks. We are going with a little out of the box and things that everybody wouldn't expect. I will say, though, as far as getting into the reasoning for the pick, you had that on there, Lexie. I will, however, have to give points for the reasoning of that you did come with that. I'm not going to trust a rookie running back just because he, looked good at Penn State when he hasn't gone up against NFL linebackers. So for that, I have to give points to Mr. Stylish Man himself, Jake Riepma. I don't know if you can see that there. And I believe this is an oldie but a goodie, Miss Lexie Culmer. So 1 point for each of you going into the next topic.
High five.
But Jordan, hopefully you got some great stats, but hopefully we can get this one a little bit more in your favor because numero dos for topics is the CrossFit Games. And the CrossFit Games this past weekend just happened. It's the title that decides the fittest man and woman on earth. Matt Frazier won on the men's side for the 3rd consecutive year, and Tia Clazier-Toomey repeated as the fittest woman on earth. Jordan, I'm going to start with you because seeing as you're not only a fan of the sport, you practice it and teach it in your spare time. Plus, you were there at the games with your family this past weekend. So it's obvious how you feel about the subject, but seeing as CrossFit is making its way into the main stage of sports, can we really call Frazier and Toomey the fittest man and woman on earth? Completely?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was there this weekend. You're right. I was
Sick
there
brag.
with my family. It was incredible. We had an amazing time. But they are the fittest athletes on earth. And here's why. If you're going to define fittest athlete on earth, it's a very simple definition. You got to be the best at the most physical tests thrown at you. For that reason, Matt Frazier and Tia Claire Toomey are absolutely the fittest athletes on the planet. Let's break it down. If you take the top athletes in any other sport, let's say you take, I don't know, LeBron James from basketball, maybe Ronaldo from soccer, and Simone Biles. They're all going to do incredibly well in their given discipline because they're specialists. CrossFit athletes are going to do decently well in everything. Matt Frazier can not only row a marathon in under 3 hours, he can lift over 300 pounds over his head. So sure, he may lose the marathon to a marathon runner, and he may lose the weightlifting competition to a weightlifter, but he's going to be top 10 in almost anything you throw at him. That, for me, is the best and most fit athlete in the world. So yeah, I think they are the fittest in the world. I don't think it's an exaggeration.
Kind of like a Swiss Army knife when it comes to the athletes and as far as being fit in that sense. And going more to somebody who is an athlete and somebody who reminds us of how great he was in college. Jake, let me know which do you think is your take on fittest athletes? These guys in CrossFit or somebody else?
Well, first of all, Nick, you do a great job, but I'd have to wholeheartedly disagree with you in that I'm a great athlete. I was much better at talking about sports than ever playing them, and I don't recall any specific time bragging about my past days. That behind us. Anyways, talk about the parameters of this argument, the definition of the word fit. Jordan, you do make a great point. I agree with you on that sense, but if we're just talking about the absolute definition of the word fit, how about somebody that can complete an Ironman? We're talking about a 26.2 mile run. Yes, that's a marathon if you're keeping track at home. You have to bike for over 100 miles and swim for more than 2 miles. Put all of that together, that fits Jordan's definition of being the most fit athlete. I think someone that can complete an Ironman is more fit than somebody that can lift some weights in the CrossFit games. CrossFit.
That's all right. You covered yourself on that one. Now, Lexie, do you think in that Ironman, or are you thinking CrossFit, or there's somebody else you had in mind?
Yeah. How has no one mentioned the obvious Olympic champion Ashton Eaton? I mean, when you win the decathlon, you're dubbed the greatest athlete in the entire world. And he's done it like, what, twice? And he's competing on it, he trains for it. Ashton Eaton is my pick for greatest athlete in the world. Decathletes are my pick for greatest athletes in the world because they do it all and they do it at an Olympic level. Very nice. Also, I kind of measure like, how would you do in a zombie apocalypse? I'm sure CrossFit guys will make it like what, season 5 or 6 Walking Dead, but I think Ashton Eaton is in it for the long haul.
I see you on that. I will, however, contend that I'm pretty sure that the CrossFit Games are going to come up, yearly, where Olympics, as far as to competing on the world stage, will happen every 4 years. So I'm going to have to give the points to our drummer boy here, Mr. Jordan Klein, and to Jake because he was coming with some of that marathon that we were totally forgetting when it comes to Ironman. So now, seeing as Jordan and Lexie, you both have 1 point, we'll do a quick little off the top of the head tiebreaker. So off of what we've seen out of athletes that we have here in, we'll say in Chicago, out of all 4 major teams, which do you think has the best athletes on them and why? Somebody please go.
That's a great question. I guess I'll start. If you have to go overall athletes, I think it's the Chicago Bears.
Okay.
The reason why is because they cover the broadest range of athletic ability, right? So you've got a lineman who my guess is can squat a house. I mean, these guys are strong, man. And then you've got your kickers who at their best are some of the most flexible athletes in the world. Then you have your running backs who are a jack of all trades. They're strong, they're fast, they're agile and athletic. And you got quarterbacks who can really sling it. So for me, if we're talking best athletes, the Bears give you the most diverse group of athletes of any other sport here in Chicago. They're my pick.
That makes sense. You guys who are going to be able to squat 500 pounds. You got guys who play quarterback who look like Tom Brady with a dad bod. So there's different variations in all different guys on that team. Lexie, what about you for your top?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up dad bods because I think on the football field there are definitely a lot of dad bods. You got your chiseled guys, but there are a lot of dad bods. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bulls. Not only do these guys have like 40-inch verticals, but of course you have Bobby Portis who can obviously, we know, give out some awesome punches. Jabari Parker, new to the team. Zach LaVine, who can jump from the free throw line. Do we forget that slam dunk competition? So I'm going with the Chicago Bulls just because, you know, guy 1 through 12, they're all going to bring different skills to the game. Ball handling, running fast, you know, they're sprinting all game. So I'm going to go Bulls.
I can see how you're going with that. I will, however, contend on that point that there's a lot more variation. I have to go with Jordan on that one.
Yeah, because there's like 500 guys on a football team.
Right, exactly, and so that's a little bit of a better take.
The Bears.
You could have as well, and that would have been, you know, the take that would have been there. So I'm gonna have to say for our defending champion, we will see you another time, and we wish you the best. For the rest of the show, you will be muted per how we do things around here. So going down to the next.
I'll miss you, Lexie.
Everybody will. And that means we're going to have a new champion today, which is exciting. So let's go ahead and go down to our next topic. Now, as Lexie did strike out with that one, hopefully so did, as we saw this past weekend, so did the Yankees, getting swept in a 4-game series against their rivals, the Boston Red Sox. Yeah, that's how we say it. Who has the best record in baseball right now and a commanding 9-game lead in the AL East? Right now, does this team look like a World Series favorite? And if not, why? And who do you see beating them in 4 games in late October? Jake, I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
Well, there's just a lot of questions coming my way. The Red Sox, yes, they do have the best record in baseball. They look like the team to beat. They're obviously going to be the favorite. They've taken the stranglehold on the AL East. But we're talking about this American League race like it's a 2-team race between Boston and the Houston Astros. People are forgetting about the Cleveland Indians, who, don't forget, were there in 2016. They made the playoffs last year in 2017. They're trending upward in the right direction right now. They've got the experience in Terry Francona at the manager spot, who's been there, done that with Boston. And this Cleveland Indians team, don't forget, they play in the worst division in baseball. They've got an easy way the rest of the regular season. They'll have all kinds of momentum entering into the playoffs. And don't forget about that rotation with Corey Kluber. He's won a Cy Young in years past. And you've got Trevor Bauer, who has also been a phenomenal pitcher for the Indians. So don't sleep on the Cleveland Indians.
I see where you're going with that, but I will contend that, you know, that's what you're saying. There's only the 2 guys in the AL East. Going more towards who's going to beat them in late October, we're looking for, you know, somebody who's going to have that strong NL presence. So, Jordan, are you siding with somebody on that side, or do you have somebody else?
No, and Nick, I promise I'm not sucking up to here. The Boston Red Sox are the best team in baseball.
Man.
To me, it's undisputed. I mean, look, from the AL versus NL perspective, I love my Cubbies. Really, I do. They're the best team in the National League right now, but they're not even close to where the Boston Red Sox are. The Red Sox have scored the most amount of runs in the American League. They've given up the second fewest amount of runs in the American League. There's nobody from the National League that's going to come out and beat them in a 7-game series because, quite frankly, in this regular season, they've only lost 3 games in a row once. They've never lost 4 games in a row. I take a team like that in the World Series any day. Their competition is going to come from possibly the Houston Astros, who, I'll give it to them, they've got the best starting rotation in baseball. It's a thing to watch. But the Boston Red Sox have in J.D. Martinez, the best slugger in the game, in Mookie Betts, arguable AL MVP, in Chris Sale, one of the best starting pitchers in the game, and in Craig Kimbrell, the best closer. I don't know, man. As they say in Boston, forget about it. I'm giving it to the Red Sox.
I'll take a minus point off of that one because forget about it is more of a New York saying than it is a Boston saying. So, you know, you had it all the way up until that point. So I will, however, say that the amount of the amount of different things that were brought up and the amount of way that Jake was able to word that one, I definitely say he hit that one out of the park. So, Jake, you're going to get a point on that topic. When we go to our last topic, we'll see who can take a whack at some golf. Talking about the 100th PGA championship that's starting this afternoon at Bellree Country Club. Odds are listing Dustin Johnson and Rory McIlroy as the defending champion who won last week as well, and Justin Thomas as the favorite to take home the Lewis Rodemaker Trophy. Now, I'm going to have to say with Jordan, one of those guys in that list, Thomas, you know, McIlroy, any of those guys, one of your favorites to win this weekend?
No, but I will come back to Justin Thomas right away. In an interview last week, he said that to win this tournament, it's really simple. You gotta hit fairways off the tee. If you're an accurate driver, you're gonna win. For that reason, my pick to win the tournament this weekend is Henrik Stenson, because he is the second most accurate driver on the PGA Tour. He has the best percentage in greens in regulation on the PGA Tour, and he's the #1 player on the PGA Tour chipping onto the green from the fringe. Those are all fundamental key parts of the game that are tested on a course like this one for the PGA Championship. Henrik is going to be the silent assassin that takes this event, simply because he is the most consistent in the areas that matter most for this course.
Okay, well that's very interesting. Kind of going with that silent assassin look. I like that you're going with that. Jake, do you agree, or you got somebody else in mind?
Well, let's back up a little bit, guys. I don't know how we could go this long without putting Bellry on the hot seat. The course conditions are despicable in St. Louis, Missouri. It's embarrassing. They've had to use spray paint to cover up some of the bare spots. That's the worst spray paint cover-up job I've seen since Carlos Boozer spray painted his head as a member of the Chicago Bulls. But point being, I heard from a little birdie, to use a golf term there, that Ricky Fowler might in fact actually be off to a good start. That's because he is. He's 3 under after 14. I really like the way Ricky Fowler is playing. So if you're asking me who the favorite is, maybe Ricky Fowler breaks through for his first career major championship, since he's already off to a good start. But this is nothing new for Ricky Fowler. He ranks 9th on the PGA Tour for first round scoring average. So hopefully he can continue the strong momentum. But I like what Ricky Fowler is doing, since at one point he was 3 under.
I see where you're going with that, and again, the amount of research and prep you put into there, it's obvious why you were prepared for this one. So, points all taken in today's rounds, and Jake, I'm going to have to give it to you, and being today's winner of point taken. As always, you now have a minute of free FaceTime brought to you, as always, by one of our fearless leaders, Darren Zaslow. So Jake, take it away.
Wow, Nick, I never thought this moment would come. This marks right up there for my memorable accomplishments, such as earning a free burrito at Burrito Beach at the Pedway, but I really don't have a lot to brag about for my Medill resume, so I'm going to turn it over to some of my closest friends at Medill, who a little over a week ago surprised me with one of the most generous, thoughtful gifts I could ever have asked for. It came out of nowhere. It was a sponsorship for a hole at a golf outing in my home state of mid-Michigan, and in fact, it was so nice, it was so thoughtful, so everybody that was a part of that, really appreciate it. Darren, we miss you. Everybody else that had a hand in it, well done. Came out of nowhere. Very, very, very much appreciated. And as always, thanks for having me on. You guys do a great job.
Beautifully said and very touching at the end there. We do appreciate that. And thank you all, as always, for watching Point Taken. If you want to see more episodes, make sure to follow us on our YouTube page at Medill Sports Talk. Follow us on Twitter and Snapchat at Medill Sport Talk for live tweets and updates that you don't want to miss. From all of us here in the studio, we thank you for sharing part of your day with us and hope to see you next time.